Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast that's on its last legs because this week it's the Seventh Doctor Retrospective.
Written by... Okay, no.
Written by us.
/ being written by us.
Live. We're writing the definitive guide to the Seventh Doctor right now on air. Live. Well, not live anymore. If you're listening to this, it'll been a week. Yeah, close enough. Yeah,
So yeah, we're done with this, both the Seventh Doctor and the classic series. So I think we can also use this as sort of a, or make this sort of a classic series retrospective.
Yeah.
But focusing on the Seventh Doctor's 3 seasons.
Yeah, or start on the Seventh Doctor and then talk about the entire series as a whole.
7-hour podcast.
Talk about every episode ever made up to this point. So, usually we start these by talking about a Doctor's seasons. So, Sylvester McCoy obviously had 3 seasons, 24, 25, and 26.
Yeah, and I guess, just as an overarching statement, it's pretty fair to say that they didn't give him enough time to nail down the role, especially with the sort of behind-the-scenes / directorial decisions they decided to make. So sort of continuing on from the 5th and 6th Doctor, where, maybe the actor playing the Doctor was sort of trying to make it work, but it was, the showrunners who weren't
Was
really
the behind-the-scenes production team that wasn't really helping out. I don't know if that applies.
Not showrunners, because there's an actual term, showrunner, in the reboot, but whatever.
Well, I don't know if that so much applies to the 5th Doctor, but it definitely does to
maybe.
the 6th. I mean, the 5th Doctor got, 3 seasons, but also his seasons were
that one
6 serials.
That one might have been more. That one might have been more his fault. I don't know.
But there's definitely a bit of Colin Baker syndrome going on here with the actors trying really hard to give a good portrayal of the Doctor with the material he's given. But I think overall, I feel like Sylvester McCoy was given better scripts, at least, than better stories anyway, than Colin Baker was.
Better stories, but when you pretty successfully, maybe not successfully, but I enjoyed his portrayal of the Doctor in season 24, and then when you're asked to just switch that up on a dime, it's like, okay.
Well, we said this in the Remembrance episode that we were expecting Sylvester to nail down his portrayal of the Doctor in that episode, because it usually takes the Doctor roughly a season to get into it, at least in the classic series anyway, and then they had to flip it, so it basically took him 2 seasons to even get what he wanted to do, and then when he had got there, he only got 1 season as that portrayal, really, which would be season 26, which ended up being probably the best season of his run.
I'd go with season 25.
Really?
Yep.
You think season 25 was better than 26?
Well,
26 had Ghostlight and Curse of Fenric and Survival.
It had Ghost of... had
Ghost of Fenric.
Had Ghostlight. Had Ghostlight. Had Survival, but then it also had Battlefield.
But had Curse of
Fenric.
Fenric.
Yeah,
Curse of Fenric was good though.
It was decent, I guess. It is the one that I was like, I have to go back to it. I didn't pay enough attention, but
if you compare that to 25, which had
but had Greatest Show in the Galaxy, so
right,
that automatically, I guess 26 is better since Survival. I did say Survival is my 3rd favorite serial ever. So,
kind of bummed that we didn't get season 27 or 28 or
29, 30, 31.
30, yeah, they needed to really make it to that 30 milestone.
But if they just continued, what season would they be on right now? So there's 10 of the new series, and then if you say that they would have done 1 a year, then what? They would have added 16 seasons? Or 17? 16, I think.
Yeah, 89 was...
It would have been 90 to 2004.
Yeah, which was 14...
15? I can't count.
15, I guess, yeah.
So... plus 10, so 25.
Basically 25. It basically would be
season
approximately
50-ish.
Well, So, well, we can just go.
Jesus.
The show started in 63. It's 2017 right now. That's
54.
54.
God. Kind of glad it went off the air.
Yeah, I think the hiatus will be good for the show. I think.
Yeah, I think it needs to end, maybe.
Well, yeah, we always talk about how the show needs change, and I think at this point, the fact that J&T been, I guess, executive producer for 10 seasons, basically, was starting to show, and the fact that I think he was starting to get a bit weary of the role. Multiple seasons back, though.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell with all the behind the scenes stuff. It's like, all right, it's pretty much done. And I guess popularity was waning as well, so that kind of contributed. Probably. I wasn't alive, nor was I in England, so
Well,
slash the UK, not England.
there's, I guess, kind of a chicken or the egg situation. It's like, was the popularity waning because of the decisions that J&T made, or did the decisions he made, like, were they influenced by the fact that the show was failing?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, if you're someone who's like, oh, I'm tired of Doctor Who, it's probably not like, I don't know, season 25, 26, you're like, all right, I'm finally tired of Doctor Who after 25 years.
Well,
But I don't know. I really don't know.
the popularity like took a pretty big dip immediately after Tom Baker left, which was just down to the fact that it wasn't Tom Baker playing the Doctor anymore, and Tom Baker was incredibly popular.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate that they
Still
tried
my
to take
favorite Doctor.
Seventh Doctor in a new direction. Probably my favorite so far of the classic series too, to be honest.
Huh. Yeah, I always say, you can like the, well, I don't want to say artist, but yeah, actor, musician, whoever, I guess artist too. You can like their work, but you don't have to like them.
You kind of have to separate the artist from the art sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially when they hold increasingly strange opinions.
Which there's actually a lot of literary theory and stuff about that, but I guess it's different when it comes to acting, so I don't know.
May or may not be. Yeah, so season 26, I suppose, is the consensus here.
It's the consensus? What?
Well, I mean, it's the best of the three.
Oh.
See, there's 33% chance to
Yeah,
pick any one of them.
I guess. Sure.
Well, so now we get to talk about companions, which I think is the most interesting part of the Seventh Doctor's run, because Ace was definitely the most front and center companion, I guess. She was the closest to being the main character of the show.
Yeah, I would say so. Turlo, maybe. No,
I
not
mean,
as much. Not as
Maybe
much.
in Planet of Fire, yes.
And, what was it?
Modern Undead.
No, it was just one word.
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment, yes.
There was just one.
But yeah, no, Ace was definitely more front and center for more of her serials.
Especially since season 26 seems to be substantially related to just Ace's past.
Yeah.
And things she did when she was a kid / younger and lived in Perivale. Kind of bummed that Mel got written out after only being on the show for basically 5 serials.
Yeah, but Mel wasn't really that interesting of a companion.
Well, it's because they never took her anywhere. She
Yeah.
was interesting when they introduced her, and like, oh, we got a cool backstory. She's...
Yeah, but they never went anywhere with it.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not so much a problem, but just a running thing with this show.
I almost feel like she kind of got the short end of the stick when Colin Baker left, because now they had to bring in a new Doctor, and they weren't obviously going to focus on giving Mel any character development, because now they've got to come up with this entirely new character for the show. And then by the time they had that down, they're like, well, sorry. And she's like, yeah, I'm leaving. And then we got Ace.
Yeah, I would put Ace as one of my favorite companions, probably. And I guess that's just, like, in part due to how much they focused on her, because, like, other companions just like, all right, they're kind of just there.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about, actually, how, what we said a minute ago, which is that they sort of introduce the companions in, like, an interesting way, and then they never go anywhere with them. And I was thinking, like, that's true even of Adric. My absolute least favorite companion and least favorite character from the entire 26 seasons of the classic show. Like, when you just think about his setup, right, without disregarding for a minute the acting, the sort of character himself, he's this kid thrown into this weird situation and he's on this ship and he's locked up. That's kind of a cool concept, right? Seems like they could go places with that. But yeah.
Well, we mentioned it in
So
our...
maybe Liz Shaw, I don't think she had much going for her.
Well, she was also there for only 4 episodes, basically the Mel of the first 4 Doctors. Well, I think we mentioned this in our 6th Doctor retrospective, that J&T seemed like he always... Actually, I think we mentioned it in our Mel retrospective, that he always seemed like he came up with concepts for companions that had a really strong base. And
possibly even the Doctor, coming up with all those concepts they never followed through with.
Yeah, for the 6th and 7th Doctors. And then he never really followed through on it, whether or not that was his fault or like just a fault in communication between him and the script editor or between him and the actors.
I think it's also partially due to like further decreased funding.
True.
But not totally. You can't just completely blame it on budget.
It's kind of a combination of everything that went on behind the scenes, I think, that all these companions had really interesting backstories, like Perry and Turlo and Nissa and Tegan. And
well, Turlo is the one that I'd say they actually did do something with, and Ace.
Right. So. And then they just never followed through on them, which is especially true for both Perry and Mel, who got really underwhelming write-ups.
Well, I wouldn't call Perry's underwhelming. I would call it overwhelmingly bad.
All right, fine. That's a fair point, I suppose.
Favorite story from this? Survival, obviously, for me.
For me, it's still Greatest Show of the Galaxy. I don't think anything in season 26 eclipsed Greatest Show of the Galaxy, although I do think as a overall season 26 had a higher caliber of quality.
Had a higher X caliber of quality in serials like Battlefield? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, this is probably an opportune moment to talk about what would be the worst story of the 7th Doctor so far, because I don't think we've actually come to a consensus so far on what we think is the worst 7th Doctor story.
No, I don't think we have, and I think he's sort of like the 5th Doctor in that there wasn't really one standout story that was just terrible like there were for all the other Doctors.
Well, the 5th Doctor had Frontios and Warriors of the Deep.
Oh, sorry, I mean 6th Doctor.
Right, okay, 6th, I was going to say.
I mean, unless we're counting Spiral Scratch, that was pretty much the garbage story of the 6th Doctor.
I think we decided that was going to be that, but it's not on the TV show. And yeah, the 7th Doctor had a pretty high quality of output, I guess, for most of his stories.
Yeah, especially based on admittedly, what little I had heard of the 7th Doctor, like, oh yeah, he sucks, whatever, but I think it's pretty clear that not only, we have completely different opinions as most people, but really there isn't any consensus or any agreement ever. So
yeah, I feel like a common fan wisdom is that the 7th Doctor era kind of sucks, which I would disagree with.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Pretty strongly.
Yeah.
But I do think there is one story that is... I mean, it's the worst, but that doesn't mean it's a bad story. It's just...
Remembrance.
I think it's Time in the Rani.
Oh. Yeah, Time in the... I'd say Time in the Rani.
Because it's just... Of all of them, it has the least plot, and the 7th Doctor does the least. It's just he's just running around in his post-regenerative trauma like he does in every regeneration story ever.
But it had the Ronnie in a polka dot thing. It had those disco balls of death.
Well, see, the problem with the Ronnie is that while she's once again an interesting concept for a character, they never actually do anything interesting with her.
Well, they completely changed her character like they did with the 7th Doctor. So
also true. She started as this like amoral scientist who just doesn't really care if the Doctor gets involved, to becoming this overtly antagonistic renegade Time Lord, which is, we've already had like 3 of them. So
I've been listening to a lot of mostly made up Doctor Who episode guide recently, and I listened to their Time in the Ronnie episode, and they made a good point on that. Like, there's really no stakes in that. The Ronnie isn't necessarily doing anything bad. She's just draining people of their ability to sleep, which is bad, but like it's not as bad as most of the things villains do in this serial. She's turning people into trees, but
well, that was Mark of the Ronnie. So,
sorry, I meant Mark of the Ronnie. I listened to their Mark of the Ronnie episode.
Yeah. Well, that's like the whole interesting thing about her character was that she's never overtly like an evil character. It's just the things that she doesn't do because she's evil, but they could be construed as being evil.
I mean, the one point that I did sort of make to myself while I was listening to that episode was, well, she did cause / fan the flames of all those other conflicts that she mentioned it. And it's like one line from Mark of the Ronnie.
All those other wars.
Yeah.
But she kind of used them as covers for stealing things from people, because I guess no one notices when you're fighting a war and there's like bigger things at hand.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Total war.
Yeah, I think I would agree that Time in the Ronnie is probably the worst. It's not like Underworld / Massacre level bad, though. It's just probably the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, which is impressive, I guess. It means the whole run was pretty strong, and whether or not that was down to Andrew Cartmel coming in as script editor or Sylvester McCoy coming in as the Doctor, I guess is up to you to decide. Oh, it's probably more likely a combination of both, to be honest.
Yeah. I remember in maybe it was Time in the Ronnie, I'm not sure, but I mentioned that Sylvester McCoy's the ugliest Doctor yet, which I guess doesn't have anything to do with his characterization. But I still agree with that. I still think it's true.
It's kind of a mean statement, that.
It is, but I don't care.
Wow. I don't think the Doctor's attractiveness or lack thereof should be, I guess, like, I don't think it should be a primary reason why you like or dislike a Doctor.
I do. Just kidding. Yeah, I do.
Okay. But I don't know. For me, I just never understood how you can, like, look at the character and be like, oh, he's not attractive. I just don't.
Then again, my favorite
like
movie of all time is Napoleon Dynamite, which has like 0 attractive people in it, so whatever.
But like on the flip side, it's always seemed weird to me that like people would find one of the Doctors really attractive and it's like, oh, he's the best Doctor ever solely because he's attractive and not because of like anything he does or his, I guess, morality. Like sometimes the Doctor will do some really messed up stuff, but some people just be like, oh, he's attractive, I like him. And to me, that seems like you're kind of selling him short.
Yeah, I agree. You're selling him short, but I don't agree that it's weird. Makes sense. Makes total sense to me. I mean,
because
I agree.
You do it.
Yeah.
That's why it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me. Can
you
explain why it makes sense?
You should do it. Just try it. Doctor Who, not even once.
I mean, I'm sure that there's lists out there like ranking all the Doctors by attractiveness.
Yeah, maybe we should do it right now with just 1 through 7.
No, I'll pause, thanks.
Maybe we should do it with all the companions too.
I'll pause, thanks.
All right. Sure.
We can do it in 10 minutes when we talk about the entire classic series.
We don't have to do it, it's okay. What were we even trying to talk about?
We're trying to talk about the 7th Doctor's characterization.
Oh.
Before you mentioned that you found him the most unattractive Doctor so far.
Yeah. I used the word patronizing to describe the 7th Doctor multiple times during his run. And, yeah, I'd stand by that.
He never felt patronizing to me.
Me, he did.
I always felt like this Doctor was very clearly had a plan for everything, and that plan included...
And he just forgot it all the time.
He did a couple times. But that plan included lots of, I guess...
Mind games.
Yes. But, like, I guess manipulation of Ace, and while manipulation is not necessarily good, it's actually usually pretty bad.
Pretty usually necessarily bad.
I don't think it necessarily is patronizing so much as just kind of mean-spirited thing to do.
No, I definitely saw a couple scenes as patronizing. Like, I think it was Remembrance of the Doctor, or maybe it was Silver Nemesis. I don't remember because they were the same damn story. But, but when Ace, he's like, "Oh, Ace, you can just go back and wait in the TARDIS," and then like, all the other speeches he has to the villains and stuff, and it's just like, all right. Maybe the other Doctors were like that too, and I just never noticed it. I don't know. Or it wasn't as prevalent. Who knows?
I mean, we mentioned it for the third Doctor for certain.
Yeah, the third Doctor was his own beast, I guess.
But I mean, for me, those always like the way McCoy delivered it. For me, that always felt like he was saying, "Oh, Ace, if you don't want to be here, you can go wait in the TARDIS," which
you can go
I like
off,
because
Ace.
there's never been a Doctor who's like just acknowledged the fact that maybe his companions just don't want to be there. Like they've all just assumed that the companions want to get involved with these genocidal maniacs that want to take over the universe.
Yeah, but I think it also sort of lessens their friendship. To me, it does. To me, it does.
I don't know necessarily.
I mean, I guess there's another way of reading into it, but hey.
Because I feel like the Seventh Doctor and Ace have probably one of the strongest friendships so far. Like it seems like they're pretty close, especially in season 26, where Ace like never wants to leave the Doctor because she's afraid of losing him.
I really don't know.
Apparently, Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred really got along. And they're good friends to this day, apparently. And I think to some extent that comes through on screen. Kind of like how Patrick Troughton and Fraser Hines were great buddies back in the day.
Kind of like how Tom Baker hated everyone he was acting with, and it showed.
Yeah, I guess as an actor, this at some point, only so much you can hide of your personality in comparison to writers and painters, I guess. Bringing it back to that conversation we mentioned earlier, where you kind of have to separate the artist from the art. I liked the direction they were taking the Seventh Doctor in, though, because I think it was different from what they've done before, and I like that. I like when they take the Doctor in a different direction.
I just want to get onto the quote section, honestly. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that's now. So,
the Seventh Doctor's era had some of my favorite quotes from the entire classic run, rivaling tonight's dinner's
tonight's dinner's going to be a national.
Was it today or tonight? I guess it's tonight.
It's tonight.
Tonight's dinner's going to be a national disaster. Still my favorite quote from the entire show so far.
Mine is from an audio drama, so it doesn't count. My favorite quote of the entire show.
Yeah, those don't count. Those don't exist.
I mean, because you haven't listened to it, but...
All right, well, what is it?
Is
it even from the Seventh Doctor?
Yes, it was. No, it was. So there's this guy with a gun. The Seventh Doctor shows up out of nowhere and takes the gun out of the guy's hand. He's like, "How'd you do that?" He's like, "The hand may be quicker than the eye, but the umbrella is quicker than the hand."
Yeah, that seems a bit forced. Well, just starting off, a running gag applied to you from Time in the Ronnie is pretty great because of how awkward it is and how really also awkwardly McCoy delivered it.
I also have a quote from Time in the Ronnie. It's Mel saying he's quite shrewd. Underestimating the Doctor is a common trait.
Yeah, I guess it is. I'd also say overestimating the Doctor is pretty common as well. Just having any expectation at all about the Doctor.
Doctor seems to overestimate himself a lot, especially during the Sixth Doctor's era.
Especially during the Third Doctor's era. Okay.
Yeah, he's older now, wiser.
Oh, I had one from Dragonfire. Do you feel like arguing with a can of deodorant that registers 9 on the Richter scale? It's from Ace, obviously. It's from Mel. No, okay.
I have one that is very strange from Dragonfire. The Doctor's like, "Why is everyone around you so preoccupied with metaphysics?" And then Glitz is like, "She's going to kill us." The Doctor's like, "An existentialist." So, the Doctor calls Glitz an existentialist, which doesn't really make sense, I suppose, since he's kind of a murderous bounty hunter. But, murderous bounty hunters can be existentialists if you want.
Sure. I had another one from Dragonfire. It's from the dragon. It's
a pretty good quote.
Yeah, probably one of my favorites.
I don't know if blank space can be considered a quote, though.
Well, it is now.
I feel like your definition of a quote requires something to be said.
No, not really.
Okay. I have one from Remembrance of the Daleks is my next one. Actually, I have three from Remembrance of the Daleks. The first one is aim for the eyepiece. Quick ace, give me some of that Nitro 9 you're not carrying. Which was after he made sure that Ace left all the Nitro 9 in the TARDIS. Like, you left it all in the TARDIS, right? And she's like, yes. He's like, all right, give me some of that Nitro 9 you're not carrying.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Also repeated in Silver Nemesis.
Yeah, because it's the same story. Then I have one, the Doctor says, you can always judge a man by the quality of his enemies, which I think is true. Especially for the seventh Doctor.
Taking some personal philosophy from Doctor Who. I see. Which I do too, because tonight's dinner is going to be a national disaster.
Can it be a national disaster if you don't run a country? Oh, wait, we do run a country. And then I have Davros saying, you've changed again. Your appearance is as constant as your intelligence. It's a pretty sick burn by Davros there. That's all I got from Remembrance.
Okay. I had one also from Silver Nemesis there. Which is, this is no madness. It is England. Predating 300 by, 20-ish years?
Yeah, something like that. 300 was in the early 2000s, I think. So, yeah.
It was like 2004 or 5.
Yeah, I have one from Silver Nemesis. The Doctor's like, a Cyberman killed by an arrow? That's ridiculous.
That's one of those ones where you look back and you're like, why did I write that down?
Pretty much.
I actually have another one where I take some personal philosophy from Doctor Who, although this was more in line with verifying/validating a view that I already held, which is, don't worry, I always leave things to the last moment, which is from Ghostlight. Something I do a lot.
I actually
and now
have
that
the same quote written down.
Now that the Doctor does it, it makes it okay. Sort of like how when he kills people and stuff, it makes it okay. No.
Seventh Doctor is surprisingly low on the character kill count for a man who was supposed to be pretty dark.
Yeah, I mean, you were the one who kept saying, like, oh yeah, his run is supposedly pretty dark, but I didn't really get that as much as maybe, like, the third Doctor.
Yeah, I feel like the darkness came from the Doctor's characterization himself and then never from the actual stories, I guess. Although some of them got a little dark, especially since Ace's childhood friend was murdered by racists. That was kind of out of left field.
And then she burned down a mansion.
Yeah. The last one I have is from Battlefield. Well, the last one I had was the one that you just said from Ghostlight, but I also had one from Battlefield, which is, I mentioned in the episode, which is Ace. One of these days we're going to have a talk about acceptable safety parameters.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. And yeah, I guess this one is just stupid, and I love how out of place and weird it was, and how clumsy it is. Just as a line is, war, a game played by politicians. From Curse of Fenric.
It's true, though. Mostly.
Yeah, but how it was worked into the script was just terrible. Oh yeah, I was listening to our last episode, not out of conceit or anything, but just because I was doing the episode notes.
You just love listening to us talk, don't you, Keon?
And we were talking about how we were trying to, we were wondering which episode title or serial title would be the hardest to work into the script, and it's definitely Doctor Who and the Silurians.
No, you could just have the Brigadier say, Doctor Who and the Silurians, just at some point, you know.
Trust me, it would be really awkward.
I mean, so would you have to stop the genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah, that is too, but I'm pretty sure Doctor Who and the Silurians is, if not the most hard/awkward to work in, then really way up there.
I actually realized also one that would be really difficult, but it's from the reboot. There's an episode called The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, and that would be extremely difficult to work into that episode.
Yeah, probably would. I honestly don't like the reboot episode titles. I know that's like a really big nitpick, but
Yeah, kind of, since most of them are just kind of dull.
Some of them, I don't know, you feel like they're a bit too try-hard. Which doesn't really mean anything, but I'm just going to use it as a negative point anyway. Like the Doctor, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh. Well, that one was named because Stephen Moffat nicked the plot line from The Witch, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, the book.
The Lion, the Witch,
and Wardrobe, yeah. So
you mean the Bible with lions?
Yes. There's also one called A Christmas Carol, which Stephen Moffat nicks the plot line from A Christmas Carol.
Whoa. Covered it up really well. Wonder how they figured it out.
Yeah, the final thing on our supposed retrospective planning sheet is the future, double question mark.
Well, the show gets canceled, so there really is no future.
Well, so they try to bring it back in the 90s with the TV movie.
They fail miserably.
Yes.
Like everything made in this country. What? Who said that?
Not everything made in America has been terrible.
It's just a joke. I actually like America, despite how much I claim not to. I don't like certain aspects of it, let's just say that.
Well, I feel like every country has that to an extent. I don't think there's a perfect country anywhere.
No, there's not.
All the Australia's like, damn you.
What?
Obviously, Australia is the best country.
Pretty sure it's Canada.
I just picked a random country, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh.
Well, so the TV movie was, if you didn't know, a co-production between BBC and a Canadian production studio, I want to say, as well as an American one. Like a three-way thing going on there.
Whoa.
And, yeah, it totally fails. Well, actually, the weird thing was it totally failed in America, and because it was an American production, they didn't make it anymore, but it was apparently actually a huge success when it aired in England, like, a month later.
Well, kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, because...
since Doctor Who isn't, like, that big here.
I was listening to...
I wonder how it did in Australia.
It was actually on the Blue Box podcast episode. They were talking about how Doctor Who has kind of become... like ingrained with British culture at this point because it's been running for so long and it's been so intertwined with their, I guess, like society, I guess, just in general.
Yep. I mean, when I went to England, you know, I'd just walk into a convenience store or whatever, or I don't know, some place, and there would be like a whole not shelf, but like an entire section of like Doctor Who related magazines, books, etc.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Doctor Who can go on forever because they love it in Britain. Like, every so often it'll probably go off air, but it's just so ingrained in British consciousness at this point that it'll probably go on forever, so I'll just keep rebooting it.
Yeah, and I think hiatus periods are definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
In this show, probably. But, I mean, it's also really huge in Australia. So, like, really huge in Australia.
And, well, I'm curious to know how much of that is... because they just like the show, or how much of it was...
How much they played it.
Yeah, but also how much of it is because they used to be a British Commonwealth/colony.
Well, so were we 300 years ago.
Yeah, before Doctor Who existed.
years ago. When did colonization end in Australia? I don't know. I have no idea.
No idea. I mean, South Africa also was a British colony for a while, and I don't think Doctor Who is as big there as it is everywhere else. Actually, I feel like the fan base there is practically non-existent, so I feel like they have much bigger things to worry about there. Glorious President Jacob Zuma. Well, so I guess now that brings us to the end, we can talk about the classic series as a whole, since I feel like we probably won't get another or a more opportune moment to do so.
No, I don't think we will. Should we go favorite story and least favorite from each Doctor? Might take a while, but I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, I think we should.
I think the first Doctor is the only one we're probably going to agree for both favorite and least favorite.
You think?
Yep. I know we're going to agree for least favorite, because Massacre is both yours and my least favorite.
Definitely the
time.
Least favorite. I have to think about my favorite for a second, because that was a long time ago that we watched those. Almost 3 years.
Mine's still Keys of Marinus.
Yeah, that's actually what I was probably going to say too. Keys of Marinus is probably my favorite.
Yep. Honestly, I'd probably say Sensorites if it weren't for those last 2 episodes of Keys of Marinus.
With the courtroom drama part of Keys
That
of
was the
Marinus.
best part. Probably that was the first time on the show that was the first time I actually liked Doctor Who. Probably. So I mean, I knew what I was getting into when we decided to watch every episode, but it was just like, all right, I'm watching every episode of this really old show. It's not necessarily that bad. It's not that interesting. And I watched the final 2 episodes of Keys of Marinus and was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Then it was a while before that happened again, but we got things like the massacre.
Well, there were a couple good stories in there, I don't know. I enjoyed the War Machines and...
Because Dodo got written out in it.
No.
Yeah,
the Web Planet.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Web Planet. And I always hear people saying like, oh yeah, Dodo's the worst companion, Dodo's my least favorite companion, etc. But I'm just like, really? Have you forgotten Adric? Or you like Adric? How is that? What?
Well,
because I hate's a strong word, but I'm going to use it anyway. Adric is my least favorite character from the entire show.
Yeah, I kind of dislike Adric too. Dodo was kind of
just the first companion who like didn't really fit the bill, so to speak.
Yeah, so they kind of
like
Tagana,
the one we remember.
Yeah, Tagana, definitely a companion.
No, I mean, like, she was, the first... Tagana was, like, the first, like, super evil, no redeeming qualities, conniving D-bag guy on the show. So that's why we remember him so much, and we mention him even to this day. And maybe Dodo sort of fits that, too, as the first sort of companion that's like, I don't really like you too much.
Well, also the show was even worse than it is today at actually giving them, like, any sort of character development. So Dodo was probably... far beyond her time.
I mean, yeah, Dodo probably had the absolute least story in and of herself of any companion. She literally just wanders into the TARDIS, is part of the show for absolutely no reason, and then just leaves.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with just wandering.
That's all she has. That's all she has.
There's nothing wrong with just wandering into the TARDIS. You do something with it. But she just wandered in while the Doctor was weeping about everybody leaving him. And then he just kidnaps her. He's like, you're my new companion.
Yeah, he had to evade the cops that were in the area.
I mean, that's kind of how the Doctor got all his companions back then. He also kidnapped Ian and Barbara. No, by kidnapping them. Kidnapped Ian and Barbara.
Oh, God.
Steven kind of
Ben
just...
and Polly join? I think they joined
in the War Machines. They helped the Doctor out, and then the Doctor goes to the TARDIS. He's like, all right, bye. And they're like, what about Dodo? And he's like, oh, she's staying wherever. And they're like, can we come with you? And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Oh, God.
And then the Doctor faces off the side of him and dies, and Ben and Polly are like, what? Which is a good segue into second Doctor stories.
War Games for my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. Wow. It's a surprising amount of agreement so far.
I think the third Doctor is where we're going to diverge.
Space Pirate is the absolute worst of the second Doctor.
I was about to say the Underwater Menace.
No, it doesn't really get much worse than Space Pirates. There are a couple serials that are worse, so like Massacre, but yeah.
I guess we can just say Massacre is the all-time low for the classic series.
It is. And surprisingly enough, I think a lot of people agree with that.
That is surprising, because I really thought a lot of people thought Massacre was some sort of paragon of television genius.
The more Doctor Who podcasts I listen to, the more I realize that somehow they just always mention Massacre and how usually bad it is. And I don't go on forums too much, not solely Doctor Who forums, but I don't go on forums in general usually.
I get all my Doctor Who news from Twitter.
I get all my news from Twitter. No, I don't. It's probably a bad idea.
You could if you wanted to, I guess.
You could, but I don't. I don't get any news at all. Cause
That's probably worse.
Consume news, so...
Yeah, so third Doctor. I have to think about my favorite, but I can tell you my least favorite was the second Peladon serial, which was The Monster of Peladon, since we never seem to remember which Peladon one that was.
I think I vaguely remember saying that one was terrible when watching it, but looking back, I don't really know if I would put that as my least favorite. My favorite is Mutants, absolutely. Which is a pretty unpopular opinion, I guess.
Geez. Mine's probably The Green Death. I mean,
Really? Favorite. I thought you meant
favorite,
least
favorite. Just looking at the list of serials, the one that I liked the most was definitely The Green Death, so I'm gonna have to go with The Green Death. Also, really liked Boss. He kind of contributed
Boss
to
was
that.
pretty cool.
Gotta hope they bring Boss back at some point. Maybe they can bring it
Bring
back
back
in the reboot.
Wotan.
Well, they bring back the Mondazian Cyberman in the new series, so why not Boss or Votan or any of those other... Yeah, Tagana.
Quillian's dead.
Yeah,
Tagana's
Quillian
dead.
died.
Tagana's just... Yeah,
Yeah, I
Tagana
think
died.
Tagana died too,
Tagana
yeah.
Bring back the Candyman. Just do it. Who cares if they're dead? I want a coalition of the Candyman, Tagana, and Quillian.
Bringing back the Candyman would actually be hilarious. Especially for all the people who haven't watched Classic Who, they'd be like, Doctor Who is dead. What is this?
Yeah, I want the Candyman in a modern Doctor Who budget. Which might not be that big.
It's not that big.
But it still looks better than Classic Who, obviously, because of advancing technology.
Yeah.
I really didn't like Inferno either. Inferno was pretty bad, in my opinion.
It's kind of... I just thought it was... I don't know, I didn't like it, but I don't think it was the worst. That is a contradictory opinion to fan wisdom, which apparently holds Inferno in quite high regard. Fourth Doctor, this is the biggest error.
Yep. Well, Fourth Doctor has my favorite story of all time so far, which is Armageddon Factor.
Also has my favorite story of all time, which was City of Death.
Yeah, City of Death is good. City of Death is good, but I don't like
Underworld.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dirk Gently, which is kind of like City of Death. But yeah, I pretty much don't like any part of Underworld at all. Yeah.
Underworld was really bad. Like, stupendously so.
Do you think they knew what I think we actually had this discussion in the Underworld episode, but do you think they knew what they were doing with Underworld? You think that they, saw the finished product and they were like, this is really freaking terrible?
Well, no one sets out to make a bad movie, right? Or a TV show. I mean, I guess that's kind of debatable, but I don't think anyone who's making it professionally sets out to make a bad TV or movie.
Well, there's that argument that like, I'm going to make it bad on purpose. It's going to like, maybe not mean something, but it's going to be like a commentary or whatever. But I don't know. My response to that is like, it's still bad. So I don't know. But yeah, all right, go on with what you were saying.
I was going to say, I don't think they knew that it was bad until they watched the final product. And I think even then, maybe just they would have been biased to think it was better than it actually was because they made it. Like, maybe. You're always biased to think your own things are better than
I wonder if they even watched the final...
Well, not always, but...
I wonder if they even watched the final product, because, you always hear actors are like, yeah, I don't watch my own movies or stuff like that. So.
Yeah, Will Shatner does that. They might not even had time to watch the final thing, considering they probably wrapped up the whole post-production like a week before it had to air. So that seemed to be the norm.
And, I mean, apparently... Doctor Who reruns were rare in the UK, so, if you miss that first broadcast, you're pretty much screwed out of ever experiencing the serial.
Just buy the Target novelization.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all you got.
Fifth Doctor. Everything's getting a little weird.
Snake Dance, I guess. That's my favorite. Or
Modern Undead for me.
My favorite. Or Enlightenment was pretty good. Just because I like Turlo.
Was good.
I'm gonna go out and say that Turlo, looking back, is my favorite companion, more so than Tegan. He was up there originally, but I think he surpassed Tegan in hindsight.
That's a big statement.
He's the one character they actually did something with. They actually gave him an arc, or like a decent one.
True. I probably still like Jamie the best, though. Anyone surpassed Jamie cool. From me.
Jamie doesn't need a story. He's just cool.
Ace and Tolo and Nessa and Tegan are all up there.
K9 is honestly up there for me. I know people hate
Oh, and
K9.
Ramona too, for me.
Yeah, I love K9. Just putting that out there.
There's nothing wrong with that. K9 was great. So the worst for the Fifth Doctor, probably still Frontios, in my opinion. Going out on a limb there, because apparently people also really like that serial.
Fury from the Deep. I know this is just me.
You mean Warriors from the Deep?
Yeah, Warriors from the Deep. Warriors of the Deep. Is like top 3 worst for me. It's so bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have the kind of second Peladon thing going on with that for me. Looking back on it, I don't think it was that bad. I think Frontios was worse.
Sixth Doctor, then, I guess. Ultimate Foe is my favorite. Spiral Scrap. We already discussed this at the beginning of the serial, so now I guess we're just going full circle. Which was a Fifth Doctor serial, which wasn't that bad, I guess.
Terror of the Vervoid's probably my favorite.
Huh. Wow. That.
It's the one with Mel.
Yeah.
Sixth Doctor.
Yes, I know which one it is.
I don't know. Maybe some other people don't.
Well, if you're gonna describe it, then you might as well say it's the one with the plant things, not the one. It's the one with Mel and the Sixth Doctor.
I mean, it is the one with Mel and the Sixth Doctor. The Ultimate Foe barely counts because Mel shows up halfway through.
It still counts.
Worst, my least favorite, definitely Mind Warp, though. The immediate preceding serial.
And as far as Seventh Doctor goes, we again already discussed this.
Yeah.
But my favorite Survival and least favorite is Time in the Ronnie.
Yeah, my least favorite's Time in the Ronnie. Favorite, greatest show in the galaxy.
So that's that.
Now you know all of our favorite and least favorite stories from every Doctor.
And you can judge us accordingly and stop watching or listening to this podcast accordingly.
Well, there's a surprising amount of agreement in those choices.
Yeah, actually.
I guess we're done.
Just end it there, no outro.
You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on the classic series. I don't really know what the TV movie's considered, but I guess not the classic series.
It's its own thing.
It's its own beast.
I think I've said that before, that I think I'm really gonna hate the TV movie. Not hate, but like maybe not like. But now I've changed my mind. I think going into it, I'm really gonna enjoy it.
Alright, well, I guess we'll see you next week. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, all at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week, we're watching Doctor Who, the TV movie. But until then, the end.